Let's improve your chess. I'm gonna explain all of my decisions here. I'm gonna play this white against a very strong opponent, FIDE master, and yeah, I'm playing d4. I'm trying to be very active here. Now c4, and let's see what's gonna happen in this opening. My opponent is playing d5, a very solid approach here, going basically into queen's gambit. Although there are so many different openings here. You can play bishop e7, bishop b4, c6, c5, knight d7, b6, a6. I mean, there are an incredible amount of different options here. Bishop a7 is kind of a classical queen's gambit, so I hope it's going to be very instructive for you. Bishop g5 here, also an old school main line. I'm playing now e3, continuing my development, but at some point I need to decide what I want to do with this pawn on d5. Do I want to exchange it, or do I want to play bishop d3 and allow d takes c and then b5? He's not playing knight to d7, trying to provoke me for taking, and then this bishop is still free to go. So I'm gonna start with queen to c2. It's still a developing move, and I still have some time because, well, he has to continue the development somehow. He plays knight d7, now it's already okay for me to take here on d5. Although I could have developed the rook first, but okay, let's stick with a so-called main line here. h6, there is some argues about this move, whether it's a good one or not, because a normal plan is to play knight f8 and then knight to g6, but when you don't have this pawn on h7 to support it, it's basically not possible. You don't have enough defenders. So this h6 pawn move, even though it seems like a good one, a useful move, making a loot for the king, it might actually not be that great, especially in a combination with rook e8, because now knight f8 is kind of the main idea here. There is also knight e4 line. If you do that, then you don't really care about this g6 square, because the bishop is under attack, and if you take, queen takes, and now the e4 knight is protected. So I don't really think that there is a way to stop this idea. I mean, knight d2 is just too passive to play. So I guess I'm gonna allow that and play castles. Because the idea is then to take on e4, pawn takes, knight to d2, attacking this e4 pawn once again, and then there is knight f6 probably for black, but then black is very, very solid, so maybe indeed I should try to stop it. But the only way to stop it is knight d2, and like I said, it's, yeah, seems to be really passive there, going back with a knight. Maybe I should try to do that. I've never played anything like that, but yeah, because normally I give you a tip to not to go back and not to spend another tempo with the same piece. But if I see here that that's basically the only idea that my opponent has, and I have a way to stop it, then I want to do that because it's now making the life more complicated for my opponent. I still want to castle, of course, although I have to be careful with some knight g4 ideas, because that might create some difficulties for me. So maybe I should play h3 at some point, maybe even now, just to stop this whole point with knight g4, and then my opponent basically doesn't have any active ideas. And now if he plays knight f8, which would be a typical continuation normally, that wouldn't come with an idea of knight g6, and that is the drawback of this h6 move. a5. Yeah, maybe stopping those potential, because normally there is this minority attack idea for white. So that is why he plays a5, just to stop it altogether. I guess I'm gonna play h3 for now, making a useful move. My position is still very solid. I have a tiny advantage probably thanks to more active pieces. This bishop on c8 is normally the biggest problem for black. What to do with it? Maybe I can even leave the king in the center and try some attack here with g4, g5, f4, and so on, because my opponent is already very active here. Probably he wants to play b4 and then knight e4, although that would weaken the c6 pawn hugely. So I have now to decide whether I just castle or I go all in pretty much and play g4. Because I mean, playing f4 is so dangerous against the rook here. My king is in the center. Going to this side is also not secure. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna stick to a more solid approach and castle. and then maybe play against this weakness on c6. Now I could maybe remaneuver my knight somewhere, although I have to be careful not to blunder my bishop, of course, and then attack this pawn on c6. Maybe even some ideas like a4, b4, knight a2, knight c1 and knight b3 was possible. Now it's not, because he played a4, and yeah, it's double-edged because it's gonna be, I mean, the dark squares are gonna be very weak now, but of course he's getting a lot of space, which is good. Maybe I have a3 and knight a2, knight b4, attacking this pawn, and then the c file is going to be opened. Let's do it, because b4 is never a move. Okay, now the knight is coming to c4. Maybe I have underestimated that, because yeah, now b3 would be more difficult for me, but still my knight is coming to b4, which I really like. So we both kind of achieve something. And even if in the end of the day he manages, I don't know, to exchange here, to come to e4, by the way, that would be with the tempo. But for now I have knight c6, right? So I'm fine, but I have to think about it. Maybe I can even take it on c4, because if you take with this pawn, then a4 is weak. If you take with this pawn, then this diagonal is kind of vulnerable, but whether I can use it is also a question. Or maybe I ignore it altogether and play knight f3. By the way, here bishop g3, and just bishop d6 probably. Knight f3, knight e4, takes, oops, takes. Then maybe bishop takes here and knight f5. Yeah, that's not big. Bishop f5, creating some threats there. How do I continue from here? I somehow should exchange the right pieces. I feel that it's critical here. But this knight on c4 is very strong. It's definitely true. Maybe I take it with a bishop, because that would not allow knight e4 if he takes with this pawn. If he takes with this pawn, what do I do? In this case, maybe I just continue my development and play rook c3 for now. I mean rook c1, rook e1. Let's do it, because if he takes, which might be an idea there, then in the end of the day this c6 pawn will be very vulnerable. The problem is I can never play b3, that is really a pity. And what do I do? Maybe I can play e4 somehow, rook e1 and e4, although that would make the d4 pawn isolated, which is normally, of course, not good. Very fascinating position, very double-edged. Of course, my opponent also has some ideas. I feel that should be still pretty good position for me. Maybe rook e1 now. I still don't think that he should exchange here, because having a rook against the queen is not what you want to get. But at the same time, my knight on d2 is important because it stops knight e4. Does it stop though? Can you play knight e4 anyway? If I take, he takes here. If I take there, he might even take. Although maybe that's fine. I mean, I have this dark squares bishop and I'm controlling a lot of squares. Knight on d2 is kind of weird. Yeah, so knight e4 is probably not that big of a deal. But still I don't really understand how I continue. Because if I play knight f3, which seems like a desirable option for me, the knight e4 always comes. Bishop takes, rook takes, bishop takes, even rook takes. Although rook takes allows knight to d3 and then I have knight e5, but even there bishop f5 would be strong. Not sure what to do next. I play knight f1. Well, here I have knight a6 and knight c5. Even if I sacrifice a pawn, it's fine because there would be a huge pin there. I quite like the idea, let me try it. Maybe I completely missed that, but I have bishop g3 in the end. If he sacrifices a bishop, pawn takes, queen takes, bishop g3, then bishop f1 is coming. That shouldn't be that big of a deal, but I feel that all of his pieces are kind of very active here. He does go for it. But what is the point? I mean, I take, play bishop d3, and I really want to play, although bishop f5 is also an idea. But I mean, bishop f1 is just controlling this this g2 square, which I thought it's great, but bishop f5 doesn't allow queen g4. And I still have this knight problem because I can't, maybe I can, no I can't. I mean, bishop f1, queen g4, queen d1, he can take here, and I can't take the queen because then I just lose this knight. How do I deal with it? Bishop f5, queen h5. Still queen d1 is not an option, but at least the bishop is not hanging. Yeah, he does have some dangerous ideas here. Maybe I have bishop f5, queen h5, and knight f1. g6. 6 is something I don't like there, because I don't see how to deal with it. Bishop takes, knight g3. Okay, let's go for it, because I don't have that much time left. I mean, knight g4 now, bishop takes, queen takes, and knight f1 should be fine, because I have queen e2 ideas or queen d1 ideas there. And queen h5, hopefully I have knight f1. g6 takes. If he takes here, I still have knight g3. Okay, knight g4. g4, what was the point? I wanted just to exchange. The more pieces I exchange, the simpler it gets. Hopefully. Maybe it's not. Okay, knight f1. Yeah, exactly. I remember my point. I wanted to take and play knight f1 because it's it has multiple ideas behind it, because now the knight is not hanging, so my queen is finally okay to go somewhere. And also, of course, I defend this knight. So, for example, bishop takes, knight takes, and h5 is not possible because of queen d1 attacking the h5 pawn. He can play h5 immediately, but I guess the same thing. Queen somewhere, queen d1. I feel like I'm kind of well prepared for this attack, because I have a very solid pawn chain. I have this bishop on g3, which is, yeah, holding it all together. By the way, if he takes and knight takes, not even queen d1, but queen f5 would be possible. Once I exchange the queens, obviously I immediately win the game because I have material advantage. Although, yeah, he has 2 pawns. This knight is strong, but I do believe that should be enough. Wait a second, I just noticed that there is knight takes e3. It might be an idea. So knight takes e3, attacking the queen. And if I take with the rook, rook takes, yeah, not that great. If I play queen e2 there, I guess he has to exchange, but then knight back, and he already has 3 pawns, and that is a lot. So maybe I take with a pawn instead. This pawn is a huge weakness, of course, but other than that, hopefully, I mean, the queen is controlling the second rank. Hopefully I can deal with the threats. I really want to maneuver my knight somewhere. And now I can finally connect my queen. Queen to e2. I don't like being against the rook, but hopefully it's still fine. Knight takes e3. Oh, hopefully it wasn't possible. Okay, and now maybe knight d3, knight f4 with a tempo would be a good idea. Now knight d3. Yeah, I mean, knight d3 is not such a huge threat because the rook is kind of pinned. Okay. Do I want to play knight e5 and exchange? Losing another pawn? Probably not. Knight f4, why is it bad? It takes, I attack with a pawn, and h5 is hanging. I mean, if the queen goes somewhere. Feels like it's a good continuation for me. Obviously, my opponent is trying to create as many threats as possible, and he is, of course, right to do that. But seems like I'm dealing with it. And once I manage to deal with it, then should be winning. Although I have a lot of weaknesses, of course. So the idea was to double the rooks, obviously. But I guess I can take on h5 now. At least I'm exchanging the queens, and I don't see anything else available for me. h4 is also coming at some point. Yeah, so now we are going into the endgame, which is still not that simple. d2 is hanging, but c6 is also hanging, so... Although knight c4 back, yeah, that's... not that pleasant, I have to say. Okay, now I feel a little bit better. I mean, if we exchange everything here, then it's more or less fine. So I'm gonna play rook to c2 because this pawn is more important for me. If he takes there, I'm gonna take everything and take on c6. Then g6 is not a problem because of knight f6 check. Rook d4. There's something I completely missed, unfortunately. Do I have any tricks? Doesn't seem that way. Yeah. Maybe I should have taken, because I still need to exchange pieces. But now he has 3 pawns, that's really a lot, and also d4 was so important for me. Probably I should have taken. Now d4 might be coming. Yeah, that's going the wrong way. It's going the wrong way. At least I bring all of my pieces together. I don't think that should be really bad for me, but he definitely has some chances now. And d4, I'm still not sure what I'm doing against it. Can't take, and g2 back, but d3, rook c3, d2, rook d1. Still holds because e3 is well protected, but feels risky. Yeah, maybe also rook e2 is possible, right? Because d3 is covered, and I want to take on d4. Takes, I take with a knight. Yeah, but I have 30 seconds, so I really need to speed up, otherwise I'm gonna just lose it on time. Very fascinating position. When he took on h3, I thought it's gonna be simple, but it's not simple at all. And 3 pawns is normally enough to compensate for the piece. Only if the knight will be very active somehow. And also my king, if we exchange everything now, my king will just win the game. But I guess he has other idea in mind. I like the fact that if knight e5, I'm covering the square on d3, but I'm not covering the square on g4. Let's go knight f5, most active move. And g4, I have king f3, I mean, the rook is well protected. Takes, a rook is protected, okay. King takes, or maybe knight takes was better probably. Anyway, now it seems like I'm winning. Because I'm winning the c6 pawns and the b5 is a weakness. And also, I mean, this knight on g4 is really misplaced there. Just need to be a little bit careful and of course very fast. And all of the pawns are falling apart. f5 was probably good. Okay. Takes. King f3. About to take the last pawn somehow. Yeah, now I'm taking the knight. Okay, I have 5 seconds, so I have to be very fast if I want to win the game. Yeah, but I'm in time. Okay. Yeah, hopefully it was instructive for you. Very, very intense game, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of tactics here. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. And in this video, I go really deep into what makes a very strong chess player, so definitely take a look.